Welcome to the Great American Collectibles Show, heard Wednesdays at 6:30 p.m. Eastern on PSA.com and the PSA Facebook page. The Great American Collectibles Show is brought to you by PSA and the National Sports Collectors Convention. Tonight's headlines are brought to you by Sports Collectors Daily. For all of your hobby news, features, and more, visit sportscollectorsdaily.com. And now, your hosts, Tom Zappala and John Molori.
JM, what's going on, brother?
What's up, man? It feels like it's been forever.
I'm back. I am back.
You're back, but more importantly, how you doing? I know you and Ellen.
Yeah, we're doing well. We're doing
went
well.
Through a little COVID stuff there.
We're past it. You know, last week I did the show remotely from home, and I had already tested negative, but I didn't want to take a chance. But you know, I don't want to pontificate, but I'm telling our viewers and listeners, listen, we all make choices in life. Ellen and I, over the last 3 years, have been very vigilant about taking the precautions necessary not to get COVID.
Right.
Unfortunately, we got the Omicron at my birthday party. And I know exactly who ground zero was.
Okay.
My 4-year-old granddaughter.
Oh, there you go.
Who had it, but they didn't know it at the time.
All right.
And she helped blow up my candles with me.
Oh, man.
So that was the end of that. But point being is this. I'm not trying to pontificate, but all I can say is if you haven't been vaxxed, really consider getting vaxxed.
You guys
getting
both
a booster.
vaxxed and boosted.
Vaxxed and boosted. And the doctor said to both of us, he said, look, if you guys weren't vaxxed, it would have been a lot more difficult, the recovery period for you guys. So, again, I'm not pontificating, but if you at least think about it. If you haven't been vaxxed or boosted, at least think about it, especially, and, you know, John Taube is coming on with us in about 2 seconds. If you're going to the National, you may want to consider that.
Yeah,
you know,
right.
You just may want to consider. A lot of people are going to be there.
Quarters, yeah.
Exactly.
Right.
All right. We have a great show
Glad
today.
you're healthy and back.
I am. We've got John Taube from JT Sports, one of our favorites, regular. We're really, really excited. Our guest host today is Tom Ruggie. He's the founder of Destiny Wealth Partners. Sounds kind of really cool. He's a financial guy, advisor, but he is so much more than that. And he is one of the biggest collectors on the PSA registry, big-time collector, and he's got a really nice concept about what to do with your wealth, either after you sell it, if you're not going to leave it to your kids, if your wife's not interested in it, how to place all that stuff. So,
and he also has some thoughts on collectibles being, you know, a sort of an aside investment for people too. The stuff that we talk about as part of your investment portfolio.
And then lastly, kind of cool, Jeff Marren from Rockhurst Auctions is coming on because Jeff, in 3 weeks, he is running the Elvis Presley auction at Graceland.
The live auction.
At Graceland.
In Memphis,
So that's going to be cool to talk to him.
Yep.
First, our headlines. I'm going to kind of, I guess we're going to promote ourselves, JM.
What's wrong with that?
On the headline. Headline, and Rich Mueller from our good friends at Sports Collectors Daily, there was a nice article on it. Our new book that I'm pointing to right here, the Diamondbacks Collection, 50 of the greatest cards in sports collecting history, is now officially out. And we're very, very excited about it. The book launch is going to be at the National. Interestingly enough, I don't even know if you know this because I haven't talked to you.
I probably don't.
We are going to be signing the books at the ESCM booth. Our good friend Joe Drellick.
ECSM.
Thank you. ECSM.
Can you just say East Coast Sports Market? Don't ever say the abbreviation again.
We're going to be signing the book there. We're going to do a meet and greet with us. Rico will be there.
Nice.
And James Fiorentino, who contributed to some wonderful images of the book.
Yeah.
In conjunction with that, Ken Kendricks has been gracious enough,
the owner of the Diamondbacks,
to send his entire Diamondbacks collection that is going to be on display at the collector booth. not the PSA booth. There are two different booths, the collector's booth and PSA.
Okay.
That is going to be...
I didn't know that.
Yeah, the Diamondbacks collection is going to be on display at the collector's booth. So we're going to be going back and forth.
Wow.
If you want to buy a book, you can buy it online. Go to Amazon, not Amazon, yep. You can go to TomZappalaMedia.com, or you can buy them right at the show. We will be more than happy to sign them. You can take some pictures in front of the infamous Honus Wagner card and all that good stuff. All right, with that being said, let's bring in... Oh, John's already with us. Hey, John, how are you?
Good to see you.
John, you're in
John?
You're in national mode, aren't you?
Hey, I start going into national mode in January.
Do you really?
And we start prepping. Oh yeah, we start building inventory. It's a big show for us, and it's an exciting time. And we try to, you stop by the booth each year. We try to have something fresh, something new, and we're expecting to have a great show this year too.
You always have a few surprises. Can you share one or two of them with us?
Well, we're going to have, some of the top bill names, and forgive me, I am a Yankee fan.
I know you are.
That has nothing to do, coincidentally, with some of the big names.
Oh, I'm sure it doesn't.
We're going to have Jackie Robinson will be represented at the booth. We'll have Joe DiMaggio. We will have a very interesting Lou Gehrig bat that was used by Lou as a member of the Hartford Senators.
Oh, wow.
Before his entry into the big leagues.
Wow. All right.
We have got, we have got a beautiful Mel Ott bat that was sourced at Wrigley Field circa 1940. And one bat that I am very excited about and fresh to the hobby. We will have it on display at our booth. It's never been seen before. Ty Cobb rookie bat.
Wow.
Double vault marked.
Wow.
and it's vault marked C28, which was the only personal model that he had. And that will be on display at the booth.
By
John,
the way, for our viewers and listeners, John is the authenticator for bats for PSA.
Yeah.
Just make sure everybody clearly understands that. PSA doesn't even grade a bat until John Taube gives it his blessing.
Yeah. John, I've done a couple shows now where you've been, and your booth is always one of the most visited. There's always a crowd of people around it. I think it's because, and we've talked about this before, it's because the bat is even different from a card or something like that.
Absolutely.
Because this is the thing that was actually touched, was used by the player. Is that the allure? Is that the allure of the bat? Is that why people who aren't going to buy anything, they just want to kind of look at it and be close to something that was that close to the legend?
Well, it's a very personal item. Okay, it's you can, and I'm not slighting. The game used uniforms.
Sure.
Which in our hobby they are the most valuable, the unrestored, and they are rare. But that's a shirt that a player just puts on, takes out of his locker and puts it on.
Right.
The baseball bat is something that is personal to the player from the time you're in Little League. You have your bat. You tape it. The pros, they put pine tar in it. They put stickum on it. They have a certain length, a certain model, a certain weight. And it's just a very personal item. Look last night at the home run derby. Look at the bats those players were swinging that were made for them by the manufacturer.
Right.
John, I'm sure some of those bats, I was thinking about that, I'm sure some of those bats will make their way to John Taube at some point in time.
Hopefully they'll cross our desk for PSA letter of authenticity.
John, when you say, you said at the top, you start prepping for the National in January, and I believe you. Is it that you're going now, when you talk about that, are you seeking things that are special, like going out and being proactively looking for things that are special for the show? Is it, do you kind of get something in February or March and say, I'm going to hold this for the National? Yep. Kind of expound on that a little bit.
Well, starting in January, late fall, December, January, we start contacting. We've got a great client base, and again, because we are PSA authenticators, we're familiar with collectors and, the collections that they have and what they may be interested in selling. So we'll start contacting people at that point in time for quality items, and we bring it in. If you have to freshen up a letter, add some photography, some additional pictures, and we start building the inventory at that point in time.
Awesome. John,
Yeah.
we really, I look forward to seeing you. Ellen, John, Rico, we have a blast with you when we're there. I'll guarantee you cannot answer this question. What is your booth number?
You want to bet?
See?
Wow. In a million years, I did not think you would be able to answer that question.
616 and 620.
616 and 620. I am shocked because you think
Make sure
Grady.
you tell me that,
None
'cause
of
we're
those
gonna go
other
around and
guys.
interview.
I've asked Grady. I've asked Brian Dwyer. They have no clue. No clue. Just look for their sign. All right, John. We really look forward to seeing you at the National. Again, camera crew will be around. We're gonna do a little interview, and I owe you a hot dog.
Hey, I'll hold you to that, and you've got to see the Cobb, and I'll look forward to seeing you guys next week.
Take care. John Taube from JT Sports. What a good guy.
Unbelievable guy.
He has just, if anybody that buys a bat, if they don't consult with him, they have to. They just have to consult with him. All right, let's bring in our guest host today. I'm really excited about this. Tom Ruggie is the founder of Destiny Wealth Partners. Now, that sounds really kind of cool, right? But it goes so much further than that. So welcome, Tom, number one. I'm Tom. Say hi to John, JM.
Tom, nice to meet you, man. Thanks for coming on the show.
Hey, John, it's nice to meet you as well. Thanks for having me. And Tom, I'm glad you're recovering well from your bout with COVID. You may be able to tell I've got a little bit of a head cold myself, so I'm not quite 100% this morning, but I'm doing good.
We heard that Tom Ruggie at 85% is better than anyone else.
That's right. That's right. You're not kidding.
Yeah, just keep on repeating that. I like that.
Hey, Tom, before we get into deep discussion about what your company is all about. You have some amazing, PSA speaks highly of you. Can we talk about your personal collection, first of all? Can you tell us about some of the amazing items that you have?
Of course. I've always been most fond of autographs. So I started collecting autographs as a young kid, literally, being in Florida, spring training, would be at the dugouts, just, trying to get a program signed or whatever. And that escalated to autograph cards, and that has really become a lifelong hobby and passion of mine. I did collect traditional baseball cards initially. I sold most of those off. In the early '80s, I was in the craze of rookies, so I was buying all the rookie cards I could buy and whatnot. So even as a kid, I always looked at it as kind of an investment, but investing in something I loved. But my collection today, I don't know how many autograph cards I have, but just to put it in perspective, I'm within single digits or very low double digits of completing the 52 top set.
Wow.
All signed. The 51 Bowman set, the 53 Bowman set, the 53 top set, the 54 top set, 56 top set, 60, 61.
All signed. All autographed.
Signed. All signed, yes.
Wow.
And then it progresses, like I kind of skip between 61 and get up into my heyday of collecting as a kid. So the 79 set is very influential for me, because that was my first big year of collecting a set.
So your philosophy is very similar to John Taube's, where you take a bat, you take a signed card, the player's DNA is there.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
And I think that's what's really cool. I mean, listen, I've been a card collector for 35 years. Not that there's anything wrong with collecting cardboard, but there is something to be said about that signature on the game used bat, that signature on a card or even that spike mark. You know what I mean? Right?
Yeah.
I mean,
no doubt.
It's Tom. I want to switch gears because I know John is listening, and he may not hang with us. So we're gonna kind of switch gears again a little bit. The crux of what you and I talked about regarding your company, and you really spent some time explaining to me, the little niche that you're developing or that you have developed for people that have collections, high-end collections, what to do with their wealth, how to move it. My wife is not interested in my T206 collection. What should I do? Can you touch upon all of that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, I've been in the wealth management business for over 30 years, and I've been a collector for. I'm 54 years old. I've been collecting since I was 9, so let's call it 45 years. And it really, because I've had the good fortune to be able to invest in my own collection. The paths kind of crossed of. You start building a really nice collection, and then you start having escalating values like we've had over the last several years. And what I've realized is that, because of my background and my career, I probably do a much better job than the majority of people out there that have a sizable collection like I do. I probably do a much better job of cataloging it, insuring it, updating the values, and then I've done a good job of making sure that, God forbid I don't make it home today, that my wife knows various auction houses and places to go to ultimately get rid of my collection. But again, I think the crux of it is I realize that I probably have still a lot of shortfalls in my own planning. And if I do, given my background, I felt like that was probably an area that a lot of other people out there would have the same problems. And so we have gone and started building up a niche of how do we help people that have large collections? How do we help them to think about that from an investment standpoint, from a tax standpoint, from an estate planning standpoint? And when I say estate planning, I'm really talking a succession standpoint. If I don't make it home today, my kids are not interested in my collection. My wife is not interested in my collection. So what does somebody like me do?
Yeah. Tom, I have so many questions based on what you do, and I think you live in that area that we always talk about, because this whole business of collectibles really is that balance between fun and passion. And I share your time. I'm a couple years older than you. Zap is like 20 years older than us, so forget him. But we're in that same era, that late 70s, early. That's my wheelhouse, man. That's where I started collecting. That's where I started loving sports. But it's the passion, and then it's the investment part of it. And you live in that world, and you seem to have found that happy medium between combining your passion with sound investing. And I want to talk about investing from that standpoint, because I've read up about, I know you've said in a lot of publications that you can have your investment portfolio, but things like collectibles, the right ones, and art can be part of that investment portfolio. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Absolutely. I've made, I think for collectibles, at least for me, and I know there's a lot of people that have differing opinions out there, but the passion does come first. I mean,
that's where we all start. That's where we all start, right?
I don't buy anything solely as I think I'm going to be able to flip this and make a bunch of money on it. Otherwise, frankly, I'd probably be investing in some of the real expensive newer cards that philosophically I've got a little bit of not a disagreement. It's just I'm just not passionate about it.
We're going to touch upon that too, because we're on the same page. You and I talked about that, but go ahead, continue. We'll talk about that later on.
So back in the day, I would actually allocate a certain percentage of my investable assets to go towards, my sports collection.
Yep.
And to some extent, I kind of justified. I did that really to pacify my wife, who was like, "Hey, you keep on buying all this stuff," and I was like, "Hey, it's an investment." So I really kind of pitched the.
Sounds like that one.
We're putting like 20% of our investment portfolio into sports memorabilia, but again, for me, passion is first. I love everything I have, but that being said, I always look at the things that I buy through the lens of, is this something that I also think is going to appreciate in value? And I just, it's my background and just the way I am. And I think it's important to, to consider it as an investment, even though you do have that passion.
Okay, we're going to take a quick break. We come back. I know John is listening. John, I know you're busy. If you can hang in just for another few minutes, because I want to ask Tom, I want to ask you the question regarding advising people also. And John, again, I know you're listening. Keep that in the back of your mind too, because you're the expert in bats, you're the expert in autographed cards and just financial assets.
What am I the expert in?
Nothing. I want to get your opinions on, are you crossing a line by advising people also? We're chatting with Tom Ruggie. Hang in there. We'll be right back.
Since 1996, Brian Drent and the staff at Denver's Mile High Card Company have led the charge in the collectibles hobby. Mile High is a full-service dealer specializing in buying and selling cards and offers a competitive consignment program for all collectors. Whether it be their computerized want list service, appraisals, or auction services, Mile High has it all. If you've been searching for a company with a selection of high-grade vintage 1888 to 1970 baseball cards and memorabilia that shares your passion, aim high, Mile High. Go to milehighcardco.com or call 303-840-2784 for more information.
This is Brian Drent, president of Mile High Card Company. Is your sports card and memorabilia collection properly insured? For easily replaced personal property, homeowners insurance is all most people need. But for prized possessions that you may have spent a lifetime collecting, it doesn't go nearly far enough. Collectibles Insurance Services has been insuring for over 50 years. They offer a full range of protection and a $0 deductible at an affordable rate with no appraisals required. I know because they insure my collection. If you have a minute, go to collectinsure.com and learn more about insuring your personal card or memorabilia collection.
Hi, this is Dan from Memory Lane Auctions, here to remind you that the renowned Memory Lane Collectibles Company has served as a beacon of light to the collecting community for the past several decades. Indeed, folks, it has been our utmost privilege and pleasure to provide the most enthusiastic collectors with an abundance of the finest sports cards and memorabilia for America's most coveted sports personalities via our world-class auctions. Whether you choose either a private sale transaction or the auction route, Memory Lane cordially invites you to reach out to us to maximize the value of your prized possessions. Also, it is not just sales that we pride ourselves on being the best of the rest, because if you are seeking a particular keepsake for your esteemed gathering, we will be relentless in our quest to find that special piece to fulfill your collecting dreams. So no time to wait. Reach out to us today for the purposes of capitalizing on our unparalleled marketing capabilities. Simply pick up the phone and dial 877-606-5263. That's 877-606-LANE, or find us on the World Wide Web at www.memorylaneinc.com. Now is the time for your valued consignment to ultimately become another one of Memory Lane's record-setting prices.
How would you like to own the bat that was used by your favorite player when he hit that towering home run or game-winning base hit? Now look no further than JT Sports, specializing in the sale and authentication of professional game-used bats. As the official authenticators of professional model game-used bats for PSA DNA, JT Sports will guarantee the authenticity of any bat purchased from them. JT Sports also buys and sells game-worn uniforms, gloves, and baseball equipment. The unique quality of the collectible is what JT Sports is all about. Give them a call at 609-487-8003 or check them out at GameUseBats.com.
Pristine Auction is a family-owned and operated online auction specializing in autographed memorabilia, sports cards, coins, art, and collectibles. Since their founding in 2010, they've grown to 2 facilities in Phoenix, Arizona, totaling over 60,000 square feet. Jared Cavalier and an incredible staff of over 150 team members serve a very large customer base and enjoy every minute of it. By working with leading authentication companies, Pristine ensures all items are 100% authentic. In addition, third-party authenticators regularly travel to Pristine Auction to provide authentication services on site. Pristine Auction strives to operate its business in a way that's honoring to God, their families, and their customers. With a strong focus on speed, quality, and premier customer service, their mission is to be the leading online auction for every level of collector and fan. Pristine also works for Hope Sports and Identity Hoops International, traveling to Mexico to build houses for the less fortunate. Pristine Auction offers several online auction formats with thousands of auctions ending each day. For more information, go to pristineauction.com. That's Pristine Auction, the best in the business.
Okay, we are back and chatting with Tom Ruggie, founder of Destiny Wealth Partners. Tom, before we took a break, I look at, and I think JM does too, collecting for the love of it. Yes, it's an investment. Of course, it's a big investment, but I'm not a big fan of speculating. I'm not a big fan, everybody knows this, of the modern and ultra-modern cards, buying one, flipping it, trying to make a quick buck. Some people are very successful at it. I kind of look at it with a jaundiced eye. My question to you is, you're covering everything. Would you ever consider advising people also on what direction to go? For instance, with your niche, vintage signed cards. Hey, Tom, I have an opportunity to buy an Eddie Plank, not an Eddie Plank, but a Shag Shaughnessy signed T206 card. What are your thoughts on that? Should I make the plunge? Should I spend the money? Or do you feel like you really don't want to get into those waters? And John, asking you to think about this in the background for the same reason. Do you guys advise, and we'll get the answer later on down the road for John, but would you consider advising people?
Well, from my standpoint, I would. I would have no problem advising people, but advice is what it is. I mean, sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad, and I'd probably provide a lot of clarity around that. So, in your example, I don't know that I know enough about that to advise if that's a good purchase or not, because I would look at that example of a T206 as a very niche purchase, which from an investment standpoint may or may not have a lot of upside potential down the road, because you have to find that niche person to turn around and buy it if you were selling it down the road.
Good point. Good point. If I can just piggyback on that, in reading things that you've written, Tom, and that things have been written about you, you talk about things like diversification, patient capital, basically thinking before you buy and having a plan. That can apply to buying collectibles as well as stocks or anything like that, right?
It's really conceptually it's almost exactly the same.
Right. Yeah, right. No doubt.
You got the blue chip stocks. You're not going to go bad with Babe Ruth and Muhammad Ali and others like that. And then you have the new things that Tom you were alluding to. I mean, to me that's kind of like today it's like cryptocurrency.
Well,
you could hit a home run with it, but you also couldn't take a bath on it.
Well, I mean, and we talked about that off the air a few days back. Especially in the modern end. I mean, we said it. Babe Ruth's dead. He's not coming back. Ty Cobb is dead. He's not coming back. You're not gonna find a brand new 1933 Gaudy Babe Ruth.
Yeah, right.
But the thing that on the modern and ultra modern side of the fence that I have a problem with, and again, I know there's a lot of speculators / investors out there, and we call it short prints. We call it, when there's a manufactured rarities. If you're gonna, you're printing a Zion Williamson, chrome-plated, hyperdelic, one-of-one card. It's something that's being created to create value and scarcity. I have a problem with that.
It's being created to create demand, but the problem with that is the printer's still going. So next year it could be another one-of-one Zion Williamson.
Exactly.
And we're on the same page there.
Yeah.
I've done 5 books now with you, Zap, and the first one I did was the Crackerjack
It's like
collection.
getting a root canal.
It really is. I mean, it's not easy. 6 is a question. Let's put it that way. But when I came from it as background being in broadcasting and writing about sports, and when you go to do these player bios, you think about how many hits did they get, how many home runs did they hit, what have you. But in doing especially some of the lesser known players, you start to really get involved in the background of the players, and especially the old-time players who all had other jobs other than playing baseball. Some were bootleggers, some were doing this, that, whatever. And I know you mentioned in an article, Tom, about Howie Fox was a player that you brought up, and the background of the player. I think we all kind of share that, is that it's not just about the stats, especially when you're doing sets. You'll learn about the person, right?
Well, that's true, and what I was alluding to in that article is, I just picked up an additional card from my 52 top signed set. Picked up a Chuck's recent. It's the only known example autographed. So, did I overpay for it? Yes. Could I turn around and sell it for what I bought it for today? Probably not. But that's again where the passion intersects the investment value. And when I buy something like that, I have a long-term view on it, because I'm going to hold it either until I die or until I get old enough where I'm ready to get rid of my collection.
Tom, did any of your autograph cards, did you actually get them autographed from the player, or most of them bought online or at shows, or what was that? What's the mix like in your collection?
I've gotten a lot of autographs in person. Yeah. I used to be the guy that, again, even in my 20s, I was the guy hanging around dugouts and having people, players 10 years younger than me look at me like, what the hell are you doing here?
Hey, listen, I pushed a 6-year-old out of the way to get a ball thrown to me by Louis Tion in 1982. I was 17, so.
They always looked at me like I had an eBay. Everything I was doing, I was putting on eBay, but it's my own personal collection.
Tom, you've written for Forbes magazine, and Barron's has written about you. You recently did an interview with one of our Boston icons, Wade Boggs. Can we talk about that for a second?
Of course.
And
Absolutely.
The reason being, because I know Taube, all of a sudden his ears are perking up, because tell our listeners and our viewers your conversation with him relative to his memorabilia. And by the way, if he happens to have a gamer hanging around, John Taube would certainly be interested in it.
Yeah, I think John, you'd have a lot of interest in what he told me he still has. Yes, that's kind of the avenue that I've been going down, is really that thought process of why, whether it's a famous Hall of Fame athlete like Wade Boggs or somebody like myself or John or you two, but why and when do you make decisions about your collection? And so I had the good fortune to get to interview Wade, and at this point he's sold most of his, what he would call his common stuff, his game used bats but nothing of significance, game used jerseys but nothing of significance, but he still kept all of his one-of-a-kind items. He's got all of his all-star rings. He's got the jersey that is still champagne soaked from the Yankees World Series victory.
On that damn horse.
On that horse, yes. He has the balls from his 500, 1,000, 1,500, 2,000, 2,500, and 3,000th hit. He has all those balls. He has his entire, everything he was wearing when he got his 3,000th hit. So what was interesting to me in interviewing Wade, which wasn't surprising, but he doesn't know what the value is, because unless you put these one-of-a-kind pieces up for auction, it's hard to tell what the value is. I mean, somebody might pay $500,000 for that Yankees jersey, and yet somebody might pay $50,000. I mean, you just don't know. You don't know what the collectors are out there. John probably has a good idea, but
you're making a good point, because we've talked to Rico about this. I mean, obviously, Rico's not Wade Boggs, but Rico was a 4-time, 5-time All-Star. he hit. He held the American League record for a shortstop for home runs until A-Rod broke that.
Yep.
And you walk into Rico's house and you get down in his basement, and he's got all kinds of really cool stuff. Does not have a clue as to the value of any of it.
Yeah.
And we've talked about it. I said, Rick, you got to start cataloging this stuff. I mean, the bat's at the Hall of Fame, but other than that, he's got the ball. I mean, it's just, is that part and parcel with most of these players that they honestly don't know the value of what they have? And then you and I spoke about, and you remember this, Bob Cousy. Now, Coos sold his entire collection just about.
Yeah.
And the money went to his grandkids.
Right.
I mean, do a lot of players sell their assets because they need the money or because they want to leave it to somebody? And would you advise them on that? What to do with that money once they sell it?
I would certainly advise on that. This is what I'm digging into more, so I don't have enough to specifically answer the questions. I've done enough research to know that, unfortunately, I think a lot of athletes sell their things because they have to. And I think there's really three schools. There's the selling it because you have to. There's the selling it while you're living, like Cal Ripken just did in his, the golden auctions where he sold off a lot of his memorabilia. I don't know for a fact, but I feel pretty good that Cal's probably not hurting for money.
Right.
And so, he took the proceeds from that, and that went to the foundation that was set up for his father. And then you've got you see a lot of auctions where post-mortem collections are being sold. Bob Gibson's was sold
right
after he passed, Al-K lines. I mean, a lot of memorabilia is sold once the player passes on. And, I think the big question that I have, and really what I challenged Wade Boggs with, is, are you prepared for that? Is your family prepared for that? And I'm willing to bet that as a generality, the answer is no.
Right.
And of course that applies to somebody like Wade Boggs, but again, it also applies to me.
Sure.
As just a collector, because I've got the same problem.
So, if I may follow up, so I have a pretty good collection, and for the sake of conversation, my wife is not interested, has no interest in it at all, nor do my kids or grandkids. This is all hypothetical. So when the time comes and the big guy calls me,
you die.
Thank you. You don't have to quite present it
just saying
that way.
You had COVID. So.
Oh, Jesus. Point being, Tom, is what should the next step be for
after the party?
After the party, for these assets that are there, and my wife doesn't know if my tight T206 Cobb green background is worth anything.
Yeah. Well, I think it's not a next step after you die. It's a first step before you die.
Right.
And I think that there's a process that using your hypothetical example, that you really ought to take the time to walk through a process of cataloging what you have, cataloging what the value is, making sure it's properly insured, and then probably most importantly is giving directives of what would happen with your collection when you do pass. My collections, I've got the autographed cards, but I also have 35 original artwork, and I think that's a different avenue of where that should be sold.
Sure.
Versus where my cards should be sold. I've got some boxing memorabilia. I think that might be a different avenue of where that would be sold versus everything else. So I think that the main step that I would suggest to anybody, and yes, I would be happy to advise on this, but is putting the directives in place of really what currently makes up your collection and what is the best way to get rid of that collection should you pass away.
Tom, everyone has their opinion on collecting and what you should collect, what has more value, what has less value. I can remember growing up, some people said, don't get a really good potentially valuable or passionate card autographed. It takes away the value.
Exactly, yeah.
So can you talk about that a little bit in your decision-making process to go with autograph cards? Was it a player, a team that you got your first autograph card and said, I like this, I'm going to go with that, and that balance between autograph versus
and you really did go against the grain back then. I mean, there's no doubt, because
they used to say, don't get it autographed.
You were doing a no-no,
yeah.
and now in retrospect, it was a great thing that you did.
Yeah, and that was a conscious decision. I've heard the same. You shouldn't get things autographed like that, but it's just where my passion was, and so I didn't let conventional wisdom change the direction of my passion. I mean, hell, I've got over 30 Dick Perez original art prints, and I believe 20 plus of those are autographed, and that's probably a no-no as well. But yeah, personally, I would rather buy that already signed or to get it signed than not have it signed at all. Right. And it's just my passion.
Hey, can you give us kind of an overview? We've got about 5 minutes left. 4 or 5 minutes, guys. Can you give us an overview of Destiny Wealth Partners, what the business is all about? Obviously, it's more than just memorabilia. Your financial advisors, I know for a fact, which was a brilliant move, by the way, that you have an office in the Villages. Like, that's gold. That is gold. Ellen and I go to the Villages once a year. Rico and I have gone a couple of times to speak to Red Sox Nation. I mean, a lot of people with a lot of wealth that are up there in years there. But tell us about the company itself.
Well, and I hope to join you and Rico next time that you're there. So would love to connect with you. But my business is started as a traditional wealth management business. Been doing it over 30 years. Started from scratch. I was raised, like I say, I was raised poor, but I was lower middle class at best, and have grown a very nice business from scratch. Where we sit now, we have our traditional wealth management. My time is focused on the family office side, which is effectively where I'm taking care of. A good portion of my time is taking care of 14 families that I manage all of their wealth. And again, that includes collectibles, and, we're talking sports here, but it could be artwork, it could be cars,
sure.
It could be, all sorts. So it's a big niche that most of my higher net worth clients have the same thing in common, that they've got collections. So that's where I spend my time. We do a lot on the investment side. We do a lot of alternative investments. We run our own portfolios. I mean, we've got a lot going on, so it's fun.
Can you talk a little bit about your family foundation, because you have built this up, and you do give back? We'll give you a little time to talk about that, Tom.
Well, I appreciate that. So, ironically, when I do sell anything, which the only time I pretty much sell something, it's because I've gotten a better signed card, a better graded card, or something like that. So I do not buy stuff to sell it. But whenever I do sell things, the 100% of the proceeds go into our foundation. Our foundation is really, it serves a lot of purposes, because being in my business, we have a lot of clients with different things that they're involved in. So we do a lot there, but I've given a lot back to my college, my high school. We have a scholarship at my high school. Try to do a lot for the kids.
Good for you. If people want to get in touch with you and learn more about your business, how can they do that?
They are welcome to contact me by phone or by email, but the email is Ruggie, it's Ruggie, at destinyfamilyoffice.com.
And you have a website, correct?
We do.
So they could just type in destinyfamilywealth.com and it would show up.
It'd be destinywealthpartners.com.
Destiny Wealth Partners. Tom, it's been such a pleasure chatting with you. Really a wealth of knowledge, and you really enlightened, especially John, because quite frankly, he's not the brightest bulb. But aside from that,
can we run down the numbers again on that?
Thanks so much for joining. Are you going to be at the National? Are we going to see you?
I am actually.
Oh, fantastic.
Oh, good. All right,
Great.
so we're going to be broadcasting from 2 to 4 on Friday on the Burka stage. We'll be around. Please look us up. We'll be around.
You'll find us.
We'll find it. You can
We'll
text me too.
Yeah, thank you for having me. And sorry, my voice is
That's quite all right.
is a little bit sketchy, but appreciate you having me on and thoroughly enjoyed it. John, nice meeting you as well.
Good.
And I don't know if Taube's going to hang around, but when I was at Austin Prep my senior year, we won the Austin Prep wiffle bat tournament, and I have my wiffle bat, and I'm willing to sign it and see if it's worth anything.
That's good, because that was actually the baseball team at Austin Prep, wasn't it? It was the wiffle ball team. It's great.
With that being said, Tom, thank you so much. John, if you're going to hang in, you're welcome to. If not, we'll see you at the National. We're going to take a quick break. We come back. Jeff Marren is going to talk to us about the Elvis, the Elvis auction. Hang in there. We'll be right back.
If you're a discerning collector interested in owning the most important pieces in the hobby, look no further than Leland's Auctions. The original sports auction and appraisal house, Leland's was established in 1985 by legendary Pioneer founder Joshua Leland Evans. And today, President Mike Hefner carries on the tradition. From the Tom Brady card and memorabilia collection to the famed Boston Garden auction to high-end card auctions from every major sport, Leland's has always maintained the highest standards. Go to Lelands.com and get your bid in. That's Leland's, the hobby's leading sports auction house for 4 decades.
It's often been said that championships are won on the practice field, and world records come only to those willing to work harder than everybody else. Heritage Auctions is the world's largest collectibles auctioneer because we believe that becoming the best is only an invitation to the challenge of remaining the best. This requires the skills of the hobby's top experts, capable of identifying and maximizing value for our consigners. It requires the most visited website in the industry, courting a global audience of collectors over 1.5 million strong. It requires a dedicated press department that expands our global reach far beyond the entrenched hobby marketplace. It's hard work, but a simple premise. Present the finest collectibles to the largest population of potential buyers, and world records will come. We invite all listeners to put the unmatched power of Heritage Auctions to work for you. Auction evaluations are always free, and our commission-based fee structure ensures that our interests are always aligned. The highest possible price for your collectibles. There will always be new world records to chase, so let's chase them together. Visit our website at ha.com and request your no-obligation review today.
Hi, this is Dan from Memory Lane Auctions, here to remind you that the renowned Memory Lane Collectibles Company has served as a beacon of light to the collecting community for the past several decades. Indeed, folks, it has been our utmost privilege and pleasure to provide the most enthusiastic collectors with an abundance of the finest sports cards and memorabilia for America's most coveted sports personalities via our world-class auctions. Whether you choose either a private sale transaction or the auction route, Memory Lane cordially invites you to reach out to us to maximize the value of your prized possessions. Also, it is not just sales that we pride ourselves on being the best of the rest, because if you are seeking a particular keepsake for your esteemed gathering, we will be relentless in our quest to find that special piece to fulfill your collecting dreams. So no time to wait. Reach out to us today for the purposes of capitalizing on our unparalleled marketing capabilities. Simply pick up the phone and dial 877-606-5263. That's 877-606-LANE, or find us on the World Wide Web at www.memorylaneinc.com. Now is the time for your valued consignment to ultimately become another one of Memory Lane's record-setting prices.
With so many fakes out there, it's hard to figure out if the sneakers you want are real. But when you buy eligible sneakers on eBay, you can be confident they're genuine because every pair goes through a meticulous authentication process. Introducing eBay Authenticity Guarantee. First, the sneakers you've purchased are inspected by a team of professional authenticators who carefully examine the shoes, including color, pattern, logos, and materials. Then they're measured and compared to the eBay listing to make sure they match. Even the laces, accessories, and box are checked. Once your sneakers are verified, they receive an authenticity tag, and every tag is NFC enabled so you can see the detailed specs. eBay Authenticity Guarantee. No fakes, no fraud, no doubt.
And eBay is the place to go, Zap, for all of your memorabilia, sports or non-sports cards, autographs, and much more. Whether it's a gift for that special someone, or you just want to add to your collection, eBay's huge marketplace should be your first stop. And if you sell, and God knows you sell, also sell out, now's the time to flip your cards and get some extra cash. I shop on eBay all the time.
Why me?
I have to get something for your 75th. I'm late on that. That's eBay connecting buyers and sellers globally.
Are you done?
I am. Thank you.
All right, listen, this is I'm kind of excited about this because Jeff Marren is on board with us now. Let's bring Jeff in. How are you, Jeff?
Hey, I'm doing great. How are you guys doing?
Good,
Hi, Jeff.
good. And I know that Mr. Taube and Tom Ruggie are both watching in the background, our previous guests. And Taube especially, he's got to be, how old would Elvis be today?
Really? He died in 1977. He was 42, so that was what, 45 years ago?
So about Taube's age.
So he'd be about 87.
Yeah, about Taube's
a couple years
age.
younger than
Right,
Taube.
that's right. So Taube was a big fan, right?
We went to high school together, actually.
So Jeff, you have a really important and exciting auction. You know, just real briefly, prior to this show, I have I co-host another show, and my co-host of the other show is an Elvis freak. He's
Mikey.
an Elvis fanatic.
Mikey, yeah.
When I told him that you were coming on board, 87, yeah, Taube's about 87. He is so
I said
excited
87.
that he's going to watch the show and he is going to participate in your auction. But anyway, tell us about it because it really is exciting.
Yeah, so on August 14th down in Memphis, we're going to have our inaugural live auction during Elvis Week. We're calling it the auction on Elvis Presley Boulevard because that's where the location is, so it's a nice title. We haven't been able to do a live auction in a few years for pandemic reasons, so we're kind of excited about that. Before I opened Rockhurst Auction, I ran live auctions down in Memphis for about 5 years for the estate, for the Elvis Presley estate, under the moniker Graceland Auction. So this is exciting to get all the clients back together in a room and throw the paddles up and see what happens. So we've been collecting material for most of this year for this one. We run 3 big auctions a year anyway in April, August, and December. But this special live one we're pretty excited about.
Now it's going to be right at Graceland?
It's right down the street in another location on Elvis Presley Boulevard in a hotel. So we'll be holding it'll be on Sunday night, August 14th. You'll also be able to bid live on our website at rockhurstauctions.com during the auction. We'll even set up phone bids for people as old as you guys.
How did you come up with the name The Auction on Elvis Presley Boulevard, Jeff?
Oh, it's a marketing sort of idea. The auction's taking place on Elvis Presley Boulevard, so that meeting was about 5 minutes. And we figured it out. Yeah.
Let's talk about
great. That's poetry.
Let's
there.
talk about the consignments. The consignments are they coming in from private consigners, from the family, or from a little of every place?
Well, the estate doesn't really sell anything anymore. They had a big sale in '99 to raise capital for some project at that point and some for charity. So they sold a lot of material off about 23 years ago, and they really haven't done it since. In fact, when I worked there, we made a point of not selling anything from the archive. So no, this is all coming from private collectors, sometimes from primary sources, I like to call them, people who still own the material that Elvis gave them for one reason or another. And then some from other collectors and some from family members who worked at Graceland during his time, or maybe members of the Memphis Mafia. Those people ended up with a lot of material from Elvis because he was so generous with everything.
Jeff, how big a crowd are you expecting in terms of the live on-site auction? I mean, this has got to be a huge event.
It is. Live auctions are really attended online as much as they are live anymore. So I expect to be 100+ people in the room. A lot of serious bidders will be there, but I have people calling in from all over the world. I have people bidding up from all over the world online. It's funny. I haven't seen a live auction in a while that's really had hundreds of people.
Yeah.
In our end of the industry anyway. I mean, car auctions are one thing, and there's the occasional special auction. in Vegas or something that might draw a bigger crowd. But in this day and age, everybody bids from their couch as much as in person. But we'll have a lot of people down there, and actually because this is the 45th anniversary of Elvis's passing this year. And since COVID, this is the first time that European travelers are allowed to enter the U.S. on a regular basis. So we are expecting quite a big crowd in Memphis during Elvis Week. So that should be exciting.
Can you give us an example of some of the items that are going to be coming up for bid?
Oh, yeah, for sure. A few of the items are behind me here. It really focuses on items that Elvis owned or wore on stage or screen. Certainly vintage concert and movie memorabilia, some autographs, some gold records you might see over my shoulder here. So some of the more featured items, we're actually selling one of his homes that he grew up in Tupelo, Mississippi when he was a kid.
Oh, really?
That's an interesting story.
You're selling a house.
Oh, wait, you're selling a house?
I'm selling, and be clear, I'm selling the physical structure of the house, not the property, because it was going to get torn down a few years back. So some collectors actually cut a deal with the guy and disassembled it. Put and videotapes the whole process over the course. You
gotta be kidding me.
There's a Tom Ruggie alternative investment.
Right, that's right. Yeah. That's right.
So it's actually stored in like a 25-foot trailer that you can drive away and rebuild somewhere else.
JM, man, come on.
Let's someone's buying that house, man.
Let's give that
right in the backyard in Merrimack, right on the river.
Do you realize what kind of a draw we will get at my house?
Man,
there you go.
That'd be something.
Wow.
And I'm getting a lot of interest in it already. People are talking about turning it into an Airbnb or putting it on their properties, a guest house or a tourist attraction. So,
that's something like that. I mean, what is the starting bid going to be on something like that, or have you determined that yet?
No, that's very reasonable. It's only going to start at $25,000. We're estimating it at $50 to $100. We don't know. We're going to find out, but it's somewhere. It should be somewhere in that range.
Cheap.
And then who knows? I've been contacted by several television production companies, that might want to get involved with the rebuilding of the house, those kind of shows. So that's an exciting item for one, a little bit of an oddball item, but it's good. It's actually gotten a ton of press already, and I haven't even launched the auction yet. So that's kind of great.
Jeff, is that a Leroy Neiman I see behind you?
Actually, no, that's by a modern artist.
Okay.
And I had some connection with his agent in the last year or so, and he's been doing a lot of great stuff with original art and giclées, and he's done a lot of sports imagery, and I convinced him to do an Elvis piece for this auction. So that's an original mixed media, painting with oil paint and airbrush. He's got a really incredible sort of style that sort of melds photorealism with this crazy modern touch. So we're pretty excited about that one.
Jeff, quick question regarding Elvis's barber. A friend of ours, a mutual friend of ours, I'm talking Mr. Mike Lamazzo, swears that he owns a good-sized lock of Elvis's hair, and he said that it was bought at an auction, and his barber, one of his barbers, wherever, was selling off pieces of his hair. Is there any truth to that?
That's 100% true. His barber's name was Homer Gilliland. He was known as Gil, and he started cutting Elvis's mother's hair in the 50s, and then quickly started cutting Elvis's hair as well from the late 50s on until Elvis passed away. So at some point in the process, because he would fly him out to Vegas to cut his hair, he would bring him to other shows, but mostly he cut his hair at Graceland because he was a local Memphis guy, and he would come to the house, he would put a smock or a towel around Elvis's hair or shoulders and give him a trim, and then he would neatly curl up the towel and to throw the hair away. And at some point, he started keeping the hair. And he ended up with a lot of Elvis's hair, and it's totally legit.
Lamazzo's I'm never going to hear
it's real.
Lamazzo is telling the truth.
Yeah.
So there are sources so what he did was after Elvis passed, he would make little business cards, and I had one in my last auction, and he would just tape a chunk of hair to it. And the business card would say, this is a piece of Elvis Presley's hair from Homer Gilliland. And it was, so there's a lot of those floating around. And then I worked in an auction house years ago where we sold a big fistful of it about 20 years ago. John might remember that. Another auction house. It went over $100,000.
Elvis actually did a song. It's called Jailhouse Lock.
Oh, Jesus.
All right, I got to go.
Horror. All right, so we've got about a minute and a half left.
I want to ask, can I ask you a question? Jeff, can I ask you, have you seen the Elvis movie, and did you like it?
That's a very good question.
Yeah, of course I did. And it was actually fantastic.
Is it going to help your auction?
Absolutely. We're pretty excited about the Elvis bump that's happening this summer. I'm getting a lot of interest. Yeah, it's very exciting. And the kid was great. I mean, we could talk for an hour about the factual inaccuracies, but that's just because it's a movie.
Right.
They're compressing historical events. But effectively, it's true with not being perfectly accurate, if that makes any sense. But the kid was great. So,
Well, people want to bid. How do they bid?
they can go to rockhurstauctions.com and register to bid there, and then they can bid online. They can bid live in the room. They can bid on the phone. These are also up for auction. These are obviously PCB glasses.
Starting bid $4.
Those are probably going to be estimated at $40,000 to $60,000.
Like if
amazing.
Elvis and Swifty LeVar had a kid, it would have been Jeff in those glasses.
Which is about the same as his diamond-studded PCB.
Wow,
Oh,
very,
look at that.
very cool. Very cool.
My Lord.
Yeah, so it never ends.
Great
There's
stuff.
so much great stuff.
All right,
oh,
Jeff.
yes, I do have one of his watches. You're right. His 55 Rolex
Gosh.
will be in the auction.
That's awesome.
Unbelievable. Well, listen,
It's going to be great.
all
Yeah.
kidding aside, we love having you on.
Absolutely,
You get
man.
it, you understand it, and you have a
Yep.
great sense of humor. Rockhurstauctions.com in August 14th?
August 14th. It'll go online sometime first week of August. Yeah, but
You're not going to be at the national gather.
I'm not actually. No, I can't go this year.
Okay.
So.
Well, we wish you the best with the auction, and we'll follow up
Thank you.
later on.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Take
Jeff,
care.
thanks a lot, man.
Jeff Marren from Rockhurst.
He's great, isn't he?
Funny guy.
He's the
funny
best,
guy.
man.
All right, listen, I think we're just about out of time. Great show today.
Yeah, good to be back.
Taube, Ruggie, Marren.
Marren.
Great.
How do you top that?
Three different topics, but it all kind of blended.
Yeah, man. Those are three. I rate all three of those cards a 10.
And listen, all kidding aside, at the beginning of the show, I said it. I'm not trying to pontificate. Please get vaxxed and get a booster if you can. If you can. Not forcing you to, but from what my doctors told me, it would have been a lot more difficult had Ellen and I not done that.
Yeah.
With that being said, we love you guys. Looking forward to, we have one more show, and then we're going to be at the National. The National's going to be out of
gonna be fun,
control.
man. It's gonna
With
be
that
fun.
being said, happy collecting.
The views and opinions expressed by the hosts, guests, or callers of this program do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the Studio 21 Podcast Cafe, the United Podcast Network, its partners, or affiliates.